The poem Spring and Fall is written by Gerard Manley Hopkins. It is a modern poem and about this philosophical definition of human life. It uses this a unique rhyme scheme and the concept of nature's demise as a representation of something much deeper. So here we are talking about season, spring and fall. So spring and then comes this fall. When we look at it, just literally, it is just about season. But the poet Gerard Manley Hopkins is trying to deliver something deeper, much deeper. It is a dramatic, meditative poem since it sort of narrates an event, imagining a philosopher as a speaker in conversation with a girl. If you look at your textbook, it is dedicated to a child, a girl named Margaret, but it is not written in your textbook. But if we look at the actual poem, then you'll see this in the beginning, which is a kind of a dedication. It is written to a young child, with a quotation, to a young child, and that child is none other than Margaret. About Gerard Manley Hopkins, he was born in 1844, an English poet, romantic Catholic convert. If we look at other poems or his other writings, there are many other writings which kind of like focuses on this about this human life. I mean, if we look at the surface, it is basically just about seasons, spring and then fall. But what seems like a simple, forward poem of a child named Margaret grieving over the trees falling its or losing its leaves, as with the approaching of this fall. It has a much greater meaning in it. So that meaning is the passage of our own life. At one point of time, we'll be full of life, blossoming, active, energetic. But with the passage of time, we will also wither, we will also fall, and then with that, our life will also come to an end. So that's something which the poet is trying to say here, Gerard Manley Hopkins. So if we look at the first four lines, Margaret, are you grieving over golden grove unleaving? Leaves like the things of man, you with your fresh thoughts care for, can you? So in these lines, Hopkins is he the poem starts directly addressing someone, and that person is none other than Margaret. So the poet is asking a question to this young child. Margaret, what are you doing? Are you crying? Are you feeling sad? Are you crying that the trees are shedding its leaves? So Margaret, who is noted as a young person, when the narrator references our contemplations as fresh thoughts. So here, if we look at it, this fresh thoughts is someone who is so innocent, someone who is not still not aware about the tragedy or this cycle of life which will also befall on her. She is not at all aware about all these things. Her thought is fresh. She is a child who is devoid of all this, the fall or the ending, which will also catch her in the end. So she's not aware, or she is far away from this, the actual reality of life. And what is that reality of life? The reality of of the end, the ending of our life. So at some point of time, we're all gonna die. We're all going to die. So there's so much information presented within this short description. It is directly a question to Margaret. So it opens with a question: Margaret, are you grieving over Golden Grove unleaving? So, Golden Grove is, if you look at the dictionary, you'll not be able to find the meaning of the word Golden Grove. It is actually coined by Gerard Manley Hopkins. So, in order to understand it, just try to figure it out as kind of a group of trees, a large, number of trees. So think of that as a golden grove. So a place where there's so many trees and there is this unleaving. So trees are falling. For example, like if you look outside the school, there's so many trees. For example, like tick. So sometimes it shed its leaves, all the trees, and you'll be able to see all this pile of leaves down there. So it is this unleaving, losing its leaves as winter approaches. And here we have a child, Margaret, with her fresh thoughts, unaware about this winter, or unaware about the human life or the things of man. So with her innocent thought, or Margaret as an innocent person is innocent, and she is crying over this falling of leaves. So if you look at the meaning of grove is a group of trees. So basically, if you look at this 4 lines, this child, this young girl Margaret, is grieving for trees losing their leaves. The concept of mortality is centered as the main poem, the main point to the poem as it goes on. So Margaret is unaware about the mortality of her life, in the sense that she's crying that the trees are shedding its leaves. But if we look at it, she is also more or less like leaves. She's no different, because at some point of time she will also wither and she will also fall. So here, if we look at the next one, as the heart grows older, it will come to such sights colder, by and by, nor spare a sigh, though worlds of one would leave me lie, and yet you will weep no why. The poet is talking to a child, like Margaret is someone who is matured. He is not trying to comfort her with false ideas or hopes. But despite the fact that Margaret is a child, he is trying to portray a realistic picture of this life. So the poet just straightforwardly tells her that as she grows older, what she sees, it'll become colder, in the sense that her heart will grow colder, in the sense that she will not really bother, because as she grows older, she will be learning by and by, or slowly, about this whole idea of human life. And as she learns, she will be able to accept that human life is not everlasting. It will come to an end at some point of time. So like these leaves, humans will also die. And with the understanding of the mortality of life, she will come to understand this life, the whole idea of life on this earth. And with that understanding, her heart will also grow colder, so much that she will not even spare a sigh for them once she is, fully matured about this human life, this whole idea or concept of human life. And this human life is given after this exclamation, the word ah. So for this the poet can see that Margaret is so innocent, so pure, a little child, but at the same time, if we look at the word ah, he also knows that at some point of time Margaret will also attain adulthood, and once she attains adulthood, this quality of innocence will also diminish. The poet tries to paint a realistic picture. He's not trying to comfort her with false ideas or hopes. So he says that as her heart grows older, what she sees, she will not even spare a sigh as she, attains this adulthood, or once she becomes matured enough. So even if she sees this huge pile of wood, these leaves, she will not spare a sigh. In the sense that she will not even bother. Moving on. Now, no matter, child, the name, sorrow springs are the same. So now, no matter, child, the name, sorrow springs are the same. So here, Margaret has a name, you have a different name, I have a different name, but no matter, or whatever names, you have a different name, you have different color, different skin tone, you speak different language, you have different name, different, so many things, but sorrow springs. At the end of the day, we will all meet the same fate, or we will all meet the same end of life. So Hopkins presents this reader with concepts that are sort of linked to this the end of life, in the sense that you will also meet your end, and I will also meet your end. So your name might start with A, and I might also, not I might, you with a different name will also meet the same fate. I with a different name will also meet the same fate. And what is that fate? The fate of the end of life. So a human sorrow, it is no different. And at the end of the day, we will all meet the same fate. So here, Hopkins reinforces or tries to bring into light the concept that Margaret will still mourn after she reaches adulthood, and states the reason for her future. And the name will be different, which makes sense if the leaves will not so much as inside a sigh from her in later years. Nor mouth had, no nor mind expressed what heart heard of, ghost guessed. It is the blight man was born for, it is Margaret you mourn for. So if you look at the last 4 lines, it is kind of sad, but if we look at it, that's our life. Simple as that. So we learn this principle of life, or the reason for Margaret's mourning has nothing to do with the autumn plants or the field of trees. If we look at the last 4 lines, we come to know what the poet really wants to convey through his poem, and that is about the futility of life, the sorrow spring which everyone will face, no matter what names we have. So that is, the whole idea of the poem. So essentially, though Margaret cannot understand the reason for why she is crying, her tears is that one day she will also die. So she crying, looking at the leaves falling, she is also actually mourning for her own mortality at the same time. So with the passage of time, she will note this detail. She'll come to know everything about this life. But for now, she is innocent, she is pure. So in this simple manner, she is able to see this life in a simple manner, and that is why she is able to feel this sense of sorrow, or sense of wanting to cry, looking at this leaf, and she's actually crying. And so no matter what the names, so it is the blight man was born for. We are born, but at the same time we will also die. So overall, this poem is a commentary to the fear and dread of death, which is so integral to our life. So rich or poor, everyone will meet their own fate. So young Margaret, if we look at it, Margaret is not aware about this human life. She's still so innocent, and she does not grasp that she has any kind of thought of her own mortality. And according to Hopkins, she will not have that understanding. She'll be able to understand about this mortality of life as she grows older. She will be able to recognize mortality one day, and she'll realize that she is actually crying for herself. Simple as that. If we look at the form, it has a kind of a lyrical rhythm, which is kind of like appropriate for a child, or to be addressed to a child. Again, if we look at the title, it is directly addressed to a young child named Margaret. So in her freshness and in her innocence, she is not able to see the actual picture of life. Again, as spring, remember the American word fall rather than the British autumn is deliberate. So it links the idea of decline or decay with the biblical fall of man from grace. Remember this, Gerard Manley Hopkins is an English poet. He's a writer from England, but he's using this word fall because fall is American word. He should actually be using the word autumn, so spring and autumn. But she's using the word fall to make his point actually clearer, in the sense that she's also he's also sort of alluding to this the fall of man. So if we look at the tone of the speaker, he's like, okay, he's tender and he's trying to be sympathetic, but remember, he does not try to comfort her. He's trying to paint a realistic picture, and that is how the poem ends. He does not try to comfort the child with these false ideas or hopes, but he tries to put a realistic picture in front of the child that at some point of time she will come to know about the mortality of life, or what our life actually is. So we're all born to die. It is the blight that man is born for, and one day we'll all die. Margaret will also die, and she's crying because of the falling leaves, but ironically she's crying for herself. She's crying for humanity, and we're all going to die. At some point of time we will die, and it is not everlasting, but at the end of the day we will also meet our own fate. So no matter how different we can be, we will all meet the same fate, and that same fate is death.